Good morning. Welcome to worship with the community of First Unitarian Church of Omaha. I'm Reverend Shari Woodbury, the congregation's minister. A special welcome to visitors. This congregation is a community of all ages and abilities. It's a community with a rainbow of gender and sexual identities. It's a community of diverse cultural and class backgrounds. We draw from many sources of inspiration and share common liberal religious values. Whoever you may be, we invite you to bring your whole self into this community. Visitors are invited to fill out a visitor form. If you're here in the pews, it's a yellow form in the hymnal racks. If you're online, below the service description on YouTube, you'll find a link to an online visitor form. Signing that form will just get you a chance to get on our e-news list. It comes out about once a week, and find out what else is going on in the congregation that you might want to be a part of. I have a couple announcements this morning. Please see the social justice table during coffee hour to verify your voter registration information before the upcoming May 12 primaries. You can also learn how to register online or fill out a paper form to send in yourself. So voter registration at coffee hour. And I'd also like to invite forward Frank Wagner for an announcement from the board of directors.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Frank Wagner. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees, and I'm also the AV guy, usually sitting next to Jake in the mornings. And I'm here to announce the 157th annual meeting of the First Unitarian Church of Omaha. General meeting will be held May 3rd, 2026 at 10:30 a.m. in lieu of service. This will also be streamed on YouTube, but it's really important. If you can be here, we want you here. This is a very important meeting. This is our once-a-year meeting. Some of the things that will be happening at this meeting, we're going to be voting on a budget for the coming year. We're also going to be voting on some minor changes to bylaws and articles. And we're also going to be voting on elections of officers for the next year. Information about the general meeting, to include budget, minor changes, and elections, will be sent out over the next week, and they'll be sent out in the mail, and they'll be available online. So if you want to go online, they'll be sent there as well, so you can have access to them there. So this is, again, it's important. Please be there, and you'll probably hear this a same or similar announcement the next couple Sundays too. But anyway, you have a great day.
Thank you, Frank. We affirm that our church occupies the traditional treaty lands of the Omaha and Otoe-Missouri tribal nations, and express our respect as well to the Northern Ponca, Winnebago, and Santee Sioux tribes. We invite everyone to support local causes, charities, and rights of Indigenous peoples as we endeavor to do together as a community. Welcome again to worship. At this time, I invite forward John Hruska to light the flaming chalice. All together. Spark. Kindle this flame, we rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life.
Call to worship. Out of the din of the city,
away from the noise of the crowds,
we come. To rest in this moment,
in this place,
set apart from the never-ending to-do lists,
embracing the seventh day, a day of rest.
we come. To the warmth and stillness
of this sacred hour.
Remember, you have chosen to be here. Something in your life led you to arrive here now.
Whatever tasks and cares await you now for this brief moment, this brief time, simply rest.
Allow your soul to be nurtured. Let the waves in your mind and heart gradually subside.
As you come home to yourself, holy and whole.
Come, let us worship together.
I invite you to rise if that feels good in your body for our opening hymn, number 389, Gathered Here. We'll do it twice. Invite anyone who's young, or if you're so moved, young at heart, to come forward for a time for all ages. You might want to come a little closer to the table over here, yeah. So today we're going to be talking about grief in this worship service. Loss could be like a friend moving away, or it's someone that you care about dying. I'm going to share with you a story about a family that's sad because their pet dog died. I don't know if any of you have had something like that happen before. I'm going to invite you to listen for clues about how people in the story are feeling and how they show their feelings. And I'm going to ask you what you noticed when we get to the end of the story. And there's going to be some times in the story when you can help with some action, so watch for that. Becky is sad because the family dog died. Becky is 8 years old, and this is the first time she has gone through the loss of death. She can't remember a time before Floppy, their basset hound. Can you guess why they might have named him Floppy? Yeah.
Because he has floppy.
The floppy ears. Yes, I love those floppy ears, and so did Becky. It's only been 3 days since Mom found Floppy, still and cold in his doggy bed. Already, Becky misses him terribly. Dad stomps around the house and has been slamming doors shut, kind of loud, and grumbling about small things like the fact that Becky's brother, Stu, forgot to take out the trash last night. Stu has been spending more time than usual playing his favorite video games. Mom keeps reminding Becky to fill Floppy's water dish, even though she put Floppy's water and food dishes and leashes and toys and all of that stuff in a box in the garage. Mom and Becky are also missing their daily walk with Floppy. They would always take one when Becky got home from school. And Becky notices that Mom seems kind of a little teary every day at walk time. As for Becky, she is wondering how she will cope with not having their dear doggie. Floppy was a member of their family. If you have a pet, you might know what that feels like. Like your pet's part of your family, right? The plump basset hound would waddle around. If you've ever seen basset hounds, they're really low to the ground and they kind of move like that. And whenever Becky was upset or anxious, he would come and nudge his nose against her leg. He seemed to know when she wasn't feeling good. Or if she was sitting down, he would come and rest his soft head, on her knee. It always made her feel better. And now Becky's wondering, she feels so sad. Where's she going to find comfort when Floppy's not there to comfort her? She's realizing that Floppy's not going to snuggle her ever again, and it's not fair. It's not fair. Later, Becky sits down with her latest Amelia Bedelia chapter book. I don't know if we have any Amelia Bedelia fans here. Usually, Becky loves these quirky characters, but this time she has to keep reading the same paragraph over and over again. By the time she gets to the end of the paragraph, she can't remember what it was about at the beginning of the paragraph. "Are you okay?" says Stu. Becky looks up, startled to find that her brother has left his video game and come over to her by the couch. Stu is a decent older brother, but not usually the touchy-feely type. So when he reaches out his arms to offer Becky a hug, she finds the tears start streaming down her face. And are those sniffles she's hearing from Stu? "I miss Floppy too," Stu tells Becky. It may be the best big brother hug she's ever had. The next weekend, the family decides to say goodbye to their dog through a ritual. Mom calls it a celebration of life for Floppy. The four of them sit together in their living room, much like you're sitting here. Mom has brought back in from the garage the box with all of Floppy's stuff. Would someone like to look under our little table here and see if there's a box you can pull out? Anybody? Yeah? Let's see what's in the box from the garage. You can kind of put it here right in the middle in front and take the lid off. And if you want to gather around the box, you can. Let's not take anything out yet, but you can look. Becky starts them off. She pulls Floppy's water dish out of the box and puts it on the coffee table. Someone want to grab the water dish? We'll take turns, so we'll have a different person each time. Okay? Can you put it on this table over here? You got it. A little tricky there. Becky says, "I miss giving Floppy fresh water every day. But I especially miss being able to pet Floppy. He was so soft and nice." Stu goes next. He grabs a squeezy toy from the box and sets it down in front of them. Yeah, can you put the squeezy toy on the table? "I like playing fetch with Floppy," Stu says. And the way Floppy flopped around in the leaves in the autumn were so fun. Then Mom puts Floppy's leash on the coffee table. Who wants to find the leash? There you go. Can you put it on the table? I miss taking Floppy for walks, says Mom. He loved to meet other dogs and to smell interesting things. You know how dogs like to do that? They find a lot of things interesting that we might not find interesting. There will never be another Floppy, agrees Stu. Last, Dad pulls out one of Floppy's chew treats. Yeah, can you put those on the table? Floppy was a sweet dog, Dad says. Even when I had a bad day, he was happy to see me and would come running with that little tail wagging. We will miss him. We might decide to get another pet someday, Mom says, but we will always cherish our memories of Floppy. There will only ever be one Floppy. And then she put out a plate of carrot and apple sticks.
Can I do that?
Oh, you want to take the cover off? Absolutely. And when you got the wrapping off here, you might want to sit it on the table while you take the wrapping off. When you got the wrapping off, you can share the plate and everybody can take a few carrot sticks and apples. Mom took those out because she brought those to this little ritual because those were treats that Floppy really liked. He really loved apple chunks, and sometimes they would even let him nibble on some carrots, and that was really cool for Floppy. So as Becky bit into a carrot, she had the feeling that even though she was sad, and was probably going to stay sad for a while, things would be okay. She would miss Floppy, but she was all right. And that's the end of the story of saying goodbye to Floppy.
What was at the start?
What's that? What was at the start? Oh, did you miss the beginning? The family found out that their dog died. And so that's why they were saying goodbye to their dog, Floppy. So, did you notice anything about how the people were feeling and how they showed their feelings?
Sad.
Any observations? Anybody out here can also call out. They ate. Oh, eating their grief, she says. Okay. Any other observations about the feelings and how they were expressed? What did Dad do? Might have got a little bit mad that their dog was gone. And Mom kept acting like Floppy was still there. Fill that water dish. Yeah. Have any of you ever lost a pet or maybe even a person that you cared about? Yeah? Do you remember what helped you feel better? Maybe what you're doing right now, snuggling with Mommy or Daddy. Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. Let's see. You've got your carrots and apple sticks who wanted them. I also have here for you a coloring sheet. You can each take one back if you like to your seat. If you want, you can even offer them to any grown-ups out there who might want a coloring sheet, and you can pick out some colored pencils or crayons or markers to take with you. Anybody else want a coloring sheet? Here's some crayons. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you want a coloring sheet? No? Okay.
Why would you go all of them?
Thank you for joining us for the story. And you can listen. You can keep listening throughout the service for what people are feeling and what they do when they're sad about losing someone. Oh, somebody forgot their water or their juice thermos. I just put it right here. Okay. Floppy might be too floppy to sit there. I don't know. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for sharing that story with me. Each week, we put into practice our spiritual value of generosity as we take up a community offering. Half of undesignated gifts are given to a local cause, which resonates with Unitarian Universalist values. If you're online or prefer to give with your smartphone, you can use the QR code or link in the program. Our Share the Plate recipient for April is Nebraska Monarchs. Nebraska Monarchs has been working to restore pollinator habitat in the Midwest communities since 2015 through free milkweed seed and native plant giveaways. The aim of the organization is to make a greater, more measurable impact on restoring local pollinator habitat. Thank you for giving generously as you're able. We come to the time for sharing joys and concerns. I always appreciate when folks feel moved to share what's going on with them. It gives us a chance to share in your joys and be lifted up by those bright spots, which we all need, as well as to offer care to one another when we have challenges. Some folks here may remember Floyd Prine. Floyd and Carol were members here for a number of years prior to the pandemic. Floyd died at the end of March of esophageal cancer, I understand. Details for a memorial service have not been settled yet, at least when the obituary came out. So we hold Carol and Floyd and their family in our thoughts. I also want to share that member and longtime friend of the church, Evie Rosser, is in hospice memory care. She's at Douglas County Health Center. Please see Linda Parker during coffee hour for more about Evie. Okay. I invite you to sing with me, just as you are from your seat. Comfort Me. It's in the Teal Hymnal 1002 if you want the music. We'll just sing 2 verses, Comfort Me and Be With Me. On the wings of this music, I invite you into a time of contemplation. You may wish to check your posture, gently close your eyes, and make your hands comfortable in your lap. If you're feeling fidgety, feel free to squeeze your little toy to help you settle. After I share a common prayer, we will rest together in a time of shared silence, during which time you may offer your own silent prayer or meditation, all in the time of silence with the sound of the bell. First, this meditation from Barbara Peskin. Often we are found in grief and comforted, calmed by some kindness, brought alive again by beauty that catches us undefended. Even when the sun is most thin and far, even at the hour the storm is at its height, renewal nests within sorrow. Love abides, even beyond anger, beyond death. We are held in an embrace, invisible but infinite, moving with all creation between wholeness and fragmentation, moving always toward the one. Love, do not let us go. Amen. A time of shared silence together. This morning, I broach a tender topic, loss and grief. Knowing that grief and the memories it raises can trigger strong emotions, I invite you to care for yourself in whatever way feels right for you. In the sanctuary, you might like to pick up the tactile toy handed out as you came into the sanctuary, and take your soft little animal out of its package if you haven't already, and see what it feels like in your hand. Holding or squeezing it may be soothing, especially if strong feelings come. For those at home, you might reach for a soft blanket, a pet, or whatever brings you comfort. And please know it's also okay to step out of the sanctuary or to cry as you need during this message. I also want to mention that after the service, I will hang out in the Merit Lounge for a while. That's the room down here with the couches. If anyone would like to talk about your own loss or grief or what this service brought up for you, feel free to join me. You can also schedule a pastoral care appointment with me. There's details on the caring page of our website, and there's a QR code on the back of your program, which will take you to that. Loss and grief are universal human experiences. Each of us experiences loss and grief many times through our lives, in ways small and large. Each loss is unique, and so is the process of grieving. To help us explore this topic, I'll share a range of stories. These are inspired by experiences of real people, with some stories combined and some details changed, including names. I invite you to simply notice whatever comes up for you. It might be feelings, recurring thoughts, sensations in the body. Perhaps some things you'll relate to, and perhaps others might be in contrast with your own experiences. Let's see if these stories help us answer the question, what does healthy grieving look like? Is there such a thing as good grief? And by the way, anyone young or old who would like to can keep the handout in front of you that shows the ball of grief on one side of it. You might notice when you hear different feelings expressed by the characters in the vignettes. And if you like, you can even shade in the feelings when they come up in these stories. Cheryl was having a hard time dragging herself out of bed in the mornings. She'd been suffering insomnia and sometimes bad dreams since her sister Patty died last month. At the memorial service last weekend, Cheryl had found it hard to see the body laid out. It made Patty's death feel more real somehow, final, incontrovertible. Blah. At the reception after the service, people told Cheryl to treasure her memories of Patty, and she did. But there was a hole in her heart that she knew would never be filled. One friend had suggested that Cheryl seek grief counseling. Right now, all she wanted to do was putter around her greenhouse. Contact with soil and seedlings made her feel more grounded somehow. Sometimes she had little conversations with her sister in her head too, or even out loud in her greenhouse when she was by herself. That was enough for now. Kevin Ellers writes that the realization of loss, levels of grief, and the process of mourning are like the layers of an onion. Cheryl is 1 or 2 layers in mourning her sister. She's going through what she's going through now. As the process of grief continues to unfold for her, more layers of loss will emerge. Her thoughts, feelings, and behaviors may shift. What she needs to support her may change too. Mason carried an ache he didn't expect others to understand. A few weeks ago, his cousin in Wisconsin had called to share that the house Mason had grown up in was no longer. Where it once stood, on what had been the outskirts of his hometown, was now the parking lot of a Fleet Farm store. Mason hadn't gone home for years, not since his parents retired to Florida. He hadn't expected to ever set foot in his childhood home again. So why did he feel like he'd been punched in the gut, knowing that the home was gone? Mason's cousin seemed to sense how much the home's disappearance bothered him. After their phone conversation, his cousin sent him a poem about loss. It helped that a loved one witnessed the significance of this loss to Mason. Douglas shares with you that poem now. It's called Home Gone by Sharon Scholl.
Miles away, in a different life, I was spared the demolition, the transformation of what was home into a drab machine shop. Its ghost still floats in pieces through my memory. The relics dancing in a jumble, but the feeling of it flutters in my breath. To be safe, to be known, to have a place in the seas of the city with its raging tide of traffic, its sleepless lights and hooting trains. The aura of that comfort never dies, but persists like a shadow to my life, a presence inviolate beyond the crush of bulldozers, the heartless erasure.
I can relate to Mason a bit. I don't know about you. I've never lost a home like that, but I have experienced a loss that was invisible to those around me after I physically moved on. I've talked about this a bit before, so you may remember that I was once deeply involved in a meditation group that I later needed to leave as it became unhealthy for me to stay with them. A community of people and a whole framework for understanding my life and the meditation practice associated with it. All of these had brought meaning and stability and connection to my life. When they became unreliable as sources of support, it was confusing, as well as representing losses in my life. For a long time, I tried to get back what had been good in that experience, but I could not restore what had been lost. Perhaps you've been through something like this. Perhaps you've had the meaning and support of some person or group or activity shift beneath you, out of your control. This could be in your personal relationships, your work life, your spiritual life, or something else. If that resonates with you, I invite you to take the note card you got on your way in and a writing utensil and write a few words or sentences to name what it was that you once cherished that you later lost in some way. To represent the change you went through in relation to this part of your life, you might now crumple up your note paper, your note card. And then let's try to smooth our note cards back out. Same paper, same words, but it will never be the same. Loss and grief are like that. This may or may not apply to what you wrote if you had your own example, but my loss that I was just describing with the meditation community is an example of ambiguous loss. With an ambiguous loss, it may be hard to pin down what has happened and what you lost. Uncertainty surrounding a loss can prevent someone from adjusting to the loss. With ambiguous loss, people may also be denied the rituals and the supports that usually accompany more well-defined losses. I was able finally to create something of a ritual for my own ambiguous loss of the meditation community and all it had meant to me. Going back to visit that place last fall during my sabbatical and more properly grieve the lost idealism and broken trust in a tangible, embodied way was healing for me. If you have had your own ambiguous loss, I wonder what supported you or what might still support you. And I'd be glad to talk with you about that if you like. Julie knows something about invisible grief too. She still remembers with sadness the child she never got to raise after a miscarriage. In the hospital after it happened, the chaplain visited Julie and her partner Terry, sitting with them while a nurse brought them the tiny body. They held their little one, stroked the tiny hand, kissed the tiny head, and cried together. The chaplain gently led them in a prayer of love and sorrow before they release the spirit of the being back to the universe. When they returned home, Julie and Terry planted an apple tree in the memory of the lost baby. As the tree grew, went through seasons, gave fruit, Julie and Terry continued to remember the lost child. With each year older the child would have been, and each season of life in which they did not get to experience their child's growth and wonder and difficulties and delights. The couple were older and had decided not to pursue another pregnancy after this loss, so they were grieving not only for this specific child, but also for their last dream of being parents. A loss that goes without public acknowledgement or social support is sometimes called disenfranchised grief. Miscarriage is often not recognized as a significant loss, making Julie and Terry's loss a disenfranchised one. Disenfranchised loss can also occur when a relationship is not socially sanctioned. This can happen, for example, for LGBTQ partners after death or divorce if their relationship was not recognized or supported by those around them. Another example of disenfranchised grief is a job loss or crisis where the whole story cannot be told, such as when a non-disclosure agreement constrains a person from openly sharing what happened and gathering support for a difficult ending. Everyone deserves to have support for their loss and grief and to have that loss recognized by those around them. Loss and grief may be inescapable parts of the human condition, but we should not have to go through them alone. I find cause for grief almost every time I take in the news these days. Actions our government takes, both within our borders and around the world, almost daily it seems, lead to sorrow and sometimes despair. The violence in Iran and Gaza, the continued deployment of ICE agents against immigrants in this country, and vigilante actions that break into the news periodically. I grieve the losses that ripple out from all kinds of violence. And even as I continue to take action for the forces of love and democracy in our country, as I know many of you are doing as well, I grieve the loss and the lessening of our democratic norms. I invite you to join me in a responsive reading to acknowledge this kind of loss. It'll come up here on the slides in a moment. Your responsive line is on this slide, here we go, as well as in your program. We grieve together is your line, and I'll gesture like this when it's your turn. As the news cycle brings us images of destruction and heartbreak once again, we grieve together. As each of us faces into this new level of horror, as we remember other moments of pain, fear, and loss. Yearning for an end to violence and suffering. Yearning for a true peace where all feel safe and whole. Yearning for greater justice, compassion, and wisdom. In the shadow of violence, we remember we are all connected in love. In the shadow of violence, we recommit to working for a better world. In the shadow of violence, we find comfort and courage in each other. I think we've got another seasonal photo for you to look at here. Carl grieves the loss of his wife, Annette. She had been through a long illness, trying many treatments to cure her cancer, which was in stage 4 by the time it was caught. Carl was a devoted husband and father as Annette rallied and when she suffered from treatments. He did all he could to keep her comfortable and offer support while he held the family together. They were both determined to keep their teenager's life as normal as possible. Annette came to accept that she would not live to share the golden years with Carl, but she remained determined to be there long enough to see their teen, Brandon, graduate from high school. In the end, Annette died in the spring, just a few weeks shy of Brandon's graduation. Both Carl and Brandon had been grieving for months already, as Annette's capacities and role in the family changed, and as they came to accept that there would be no cure. When she died, Carl was devastated, but he also felt relieved. At last, Annette's suffering was over. He cycled through many other emotions. Brandon wanted to be with their friends. The teen found solace in music as a way to express their feelings about their mom's death. Together, Carl and Brandon and Annette's mom put together a beautiful, very personal memorial service. Surrounded by loving members of their extended family, the service was a meaningful moment in their grieving journey. But there were many layers of grief still to come. Now, Carl is the sort of person who likes to know what to expect. Some videos helped him. He shared those links with me, and I'm going to include them along with some other grief resources in an upcoming post on the church blog, so you can watch for that if you're interested. Carl also created a grief altar, selecting a nook in their home to collect photos and mementos related to Annette, maybe a little bit like what the family did for Floppy, only it was a place dedicated just for memories of Annette, and they could keep adding to it over the course of time. The urn with Annette's ashes went there on the altar. And Carl and Brandon added other things in time, like red and green candles lit at the altar to include her in their first Christmas after that. And a rose from the first flowering of Annette's beloved rose bushes the following spring. Grief is not just missing the person who is gone. It can affect a person's understanding of themselves, a person's hopes for the future, sometimes a person's theology or sense of the justness or meaning of life. Carl grieved his lost identity as a husband. He and Annette had been together for decades. Who was he without her? Carl mourned the dreams he and Annette had long shared about the travels they would take together in retirement. They would not visit Italy together, after all, nor explore the Andes Mountains. When Brandon went off to college, while Carl was still grieving Annette, Carl experienced compounded grief. Compounded grief is when a person has loss upon loss, without time to fully process one big loss before another major change occurs. That's how it was for Carl. Suddenly, it was just Carl and the dog in their big house. Which brings me to pets. We heard one story about that in the Time for All Ages. Some of us have discovered what Floppy's family may come to learn about big losses, that we never really get over them, not fully. Grief doesn't go away. It comes in waves, often, and shifts shapes and feelings over time, and gets slowly softer, though it can come roaring back unexpectedly many years later. There's a jar image I like, which you'll see momentarily, and it's on the back side of your grief ball, too. I like this. I think it holds a wisdom about grief. This is the human condition. Whatever joy, beauty, love we are fortunate to experience is part of us always thereafter. And whatever losses, sorrows, traumas we experience are a part of us always thereafter, too. Sometimes the loss and grief are in direct proportion to the love and joy that a relationship brought us. We can integrate losses and difficult experiences with time and support. We can create the conditions for adjusting to life after, most of all by accepting our feelings as they come and by giving ourselves space and grace. Because there's no forcing it. Grief charts its own course. I have not touched on every sort of loss or grief with these vignettes. I didn't get to breakups and divorces, or the slow-moving tragedy of losing a loved one to Alzheimer's, physically present but psychologically shifting. Or for that matter, losing some part of one's own former capacity as disability or chronic illness sets in. And then, of course, there are the loss that comes sometimes with geographic moves, the grief involved in climate change, and the sliding of the seasons away from old familiar baselines or whipping around like it's been doing lately. Job losses, whether chosen or thrust upon one. Friendships ending with drama or just slow drifting apart. The favorite cardigan I left behind at an airport this winter, which I miss every time I want a layer lately. And on and on. Life is littered with losses. And every loss leaves an imprint. Good grief. Given how hard loss can be and how it accumulates over a lifetime, is there such a thing as good grief? Charlie Brown seemed to think so, or Charles Schulz did, putting those words into the mouth of his comic strip protagonist on a regular basis. Good grief. I think good grief is authentic in feeling and action. There's no one right way to grieve. There's simply what is true for you. And by the way, if you're wondering, when am I going to talk about those stages of grief from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross? I'm not, because that was actually about grieving your own death, and grief is not linear like that for most people. Grief may be different for different losses, and it never really ends, but we can support ourselves, and we can support each other. I want to remind you that following this service, I'm going to be hanging out for a while in the Merritt Lounge, if anybody would like to connect. And also happy to schedule a time to talk individually. I want to leave you with words that I share at every celebration of life service that I officiate. In grief, let us make room for all of the feelings that may arise: sorrow, joy, and anger, numbness, loss, and shock, gratitude, tears, laughter, and confusion. No authentic feeling is out of place. The process of grieving will unfold differently for everyone. There is no right or wrong way to mourn, no rules about how you should feel, what you should do, or when you should be done grieving. I invite you, if it feels good to yourself, to give yourself a big hug right now, or if you prefer, you might offer a hug to a neighbor. May you be gentle with yourself when you are feeling loss, and may you reach out when you need support. So may it be. Amen. I invite you to rise for our closing hymn, if that feels good to you, number 311, Let It Be a Dance. Take courage, friends, and take comfort. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are often high. But take courage and take comfort, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone.